Want to talk about categories? Anyone up for that?
I really did not know the answer to your question. I was really hoping
Yeah.
Jake was going to be here for this.
Um, I mean, I think it really just, yeah. I mean, the way that he talks about it, seems like I really wish I knew Greek, man, but um, it seems like it really seemed to me like knowledge of grammar, like a particular branch of knowledge, is not is not a species of knowledge which is in relation. Um, the way that he speaks about it in certain sentences really seems to suggest that, uh, but then he says explicitly, and then he explicitly um, calls knowledge their genus. Uh, Here, hold on. Let me do this thing.
I'm looking also just real quick at Thomas's commentary on the Metaphysics, Book 5, Lectures 16 and 17, where he's kind of going through all the categories.
Yeah.
So Lecture 16 is quality, 17 is relative, and he mentions knowledge. I just searched for knowledge a total of 5, once in Lecture 16 on quality, 4 times in Lecture 17 on relative. I haven't seen the texts yet, but I didn't know if that might be helpful.
Yeah. Well, so the argument, the discussion really starts here, or just in these two paragraphs.
Here we go.
This part of it, well, I guess even just specifically this part right here, is what's really kind of throwing me for a loop here. Because he seems sort of, right, this part right here makes it seem like he's reluctant
Sorry. I found the paper.
Oh.
I failed it. Yes! Why did I fail it for? What did I say? Let me see. Ooh, I extended an opportunity to rewrite, but it doesn't look like they took it. Let me see.
Too charitable.
Yeah.
Dear student, this sucked. Opportunity to rewrite, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I did that. Ooh. You know what? Hang on, did they rewrite this paper? I think they might have. Oh, they did. Oh, shit. They did. So this is what happened is Peachy Essay submitted it once. I kicked it back to the student and said, this paper doesn't fulfill the assignment, rewrite it. And they rewrote it.
And when they rewrote it, did they
I gave it a B. Well, they didn't rewrite it. No.
Or did they
The rewrite is exactly the essay that's on here. The first draft has the same introduction, and that's what I saw. And then I read lower, and I'm like, oh wait, no, this is not the same paper. And then I checked the next submission, and that was it.
Ooh. So was that one that you should have failed then?
I mean, I think objectively, if I had somehow known that it was a paid-for essay, but
I guess that's what I'm asking. So the rewrite was a paid-for essay.
Mm-hmm. I think the original was too. That's. I think they submitted this assignment to these guys, and if they submitted to my student their submission, and then I kicked it back to her or him, and said, hey, this doesn't meet the assignment parameters, and they rewrote it for the student.
I wonder if the student had to pay extra for that.
I doubt it. You know, they didn't deliver a product that they said they would deliver. So, all
That's
right.
incredible.
Anyway, at least I know the name now. So I'll tell Dr. Carl, but I don't know what they're gonna do about this.
Yeah.
Is it longer than a semester?
It's last semester.
Or you might still be able to do something about it, actually.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only fair if the student gets a whole year to be able to challenge a grade. You should have at least that long also to challenge their grade.
I don't think it works that way, but if it might work that way with this.
Yeah, I don't know.
The only other possibility is that they actually ripped her essay or his essay off of some other website and copied it as if it was their own to market their business, and that would be the how do you prove, right, that they wrote the essay for the student? So, but anyway, I'll let them know.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, sorry. My head is in the categories.
All right. Yeah, so what led me to want to say that a particular branch of knowledge is not in the category of relation is really this whole sentence right here.
Yeah.
Right? Because he seems to be saying that knowledge taken as a genus, right? We might say knowledge without precision or something, is not or is relative because you immediately, in order to know what you're talking about, you need to make reference to something else, knowledge of something, right? But then once you do, you no longer need to relate it to anything else, right? So knowledge of grammar, you kind of know what that is, sort of immediately, at least in a general way, right? You don't need to refer knowledge of grammar to anything else. You don't need to say knowledge of grammar of blank. And that, which seems to be exactly what he's saying here. The knowledge of grammar is not relative to any external, or is it knowledge of music, so on and so forth. And then it's just this second half right here. But these, if relative at all, are relative only in virtue of their generic. So it seems like
of their genus of knowledge.
Right, which seems to explicitly to be saying that these are still species of knowledge which is relative, which would put them in the category of relation.
Yeah.
But he seems sort of almost reluctant to put these species of a relation in the category of relation, which is sort of strange. And then
because it is sorry, no, go ahead.
Well, just really quickly, and then to the very next paragraph right here.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. He seems to say explicitly then that it's right, that they are not relative, not in the category of relation. And then he's like, you know what? Just calm down, man. If they're in two categories, it's not a big deal, right? Get over yourself.
Yeah, that's the part where I was thinking, where he was talking about nothing really hinders something from belonging to more than one category.
Yeah.
At least here. But
think of another example though.
Yeah.
Right.
That's part of the problem.
The closest one I got is body from the De Ente, but that's not exactly the same thing. You're talking about a extended thing in one sense of body, and another you're talking about literally, I guess, material substance.
Yeah,
right?
It seems like
those are different ratios.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like body with precision is still a species of body without precision.
I don't think so. No, I think that the body with precision is in the category of quantity, and that body without precision is in the category of substance.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
That's why I was asking about if knowledge is being used univocally here, because I'm not 100% sure that it is. given the intellectual virtue of knowledge, and kind of what he's talking about here, right? So like knowledge by definition is knowledge of something. That's why it's in the category of relation, right? But it's by having the knowledge of grammar that you are grammatical, right? Which is a quality. Or having the
Right.
knowledge of music is what makes you musical, which
Yeah.
is a quality. And that's kind of what I was trying to say in the group text, or our group text. It seems like whatever. What did I say? But like the knowledge is a habit, right? As the habit by which the intellectual virtue, the habit by which I draw conclusions from principles. That seems to be something different from the definition of knowledge as being the relation of something to me, right? Or of the form of something to my intellect, whereby I comprehend the essence of something. Like, so there's a difference between the virtues of understanding and science, right? Those are different intellectual virtues.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're both knowledge in a sense.
Yeah, they're distinct habits because they have distinct acts, right? Or different objects.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know if that's relevant to what he's trying to say about knowledge in these different categories. It seems like it would have to be, just because those seem like two different things, right? When you're talking about the knowledge by itself, all knowledge is relative, because like we've said and we've agreed that not all knowledge is a knowledge of something. But by my having that relation, there is a qualitative change in me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
By having the knowledge of grammar, I become a grammarian. Or by having the knowledge of music, I become musical. By having the knowledge of logic, I become logical, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the ratio of knowledge as habit is the having of knowledge, and then the other one you're considering it like, I guess, apart from a subject who knows it. You're
I
just
get
thinking of what
that's.
knowledge is.
I think what he means, like when he's talking about like knowledge as a genus. Yeah, like what knowledge is by definition. Right?
Yeah.
But my having of such knowledge is something qualitative.
So what I imagine then is, if we were to draw a sort of Porphyrian tree of quality and of relation, then both of them would at some point have a genus of knowledge, and in that genus would be all the species of the sciences. But the genus and the species taken in quality would be understood as the having of knowledge, and the genus and species of relation would be considering just what knowledge is by definition. Or what would you?
I mean, that's.
This is the weird thing, is I don't know that defining knowledge apart from habit is quite. Is that right? Is that? It seems like.
Well, you could say, but still, even if you define knowledge, again, this is why I wonder what the term. I don't know what the term is in Greek. This is why I went to Ethics Book 6, where he talks about the different intellectual virtues, because some of them still get just translated as knowledge, but Aristotle can mean different things by that notion of knowledge. But even if you still wanted to define it as like my knowledge, but that's still mine, is the habit whereby I have a relation, an intellectual relation to something. So even the quality in me is a quality of relation, if that makes any sense. Like my knowledge of grammar that makes me grammatical is that I have an intellectual relation to the rules of language.
Is habit also in general a relational term?
I
don't think so.
was going to say, I'm not sure that it has to be, but
Or
what would be
maybe
Because
what's
it's
the
always the
example?
I think
habit
he
of
actually.
something.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the example?
Yeah. He also, I think he does actually mention. Yeah, right here. We did say that habits and dispositions were relative.
Okay.
In practically all such cases, though, the genus is relative, the individual is not.
This is a little messier than I wish it was.
Yeah,
I mean, and not that Aristotle is messy, but maybe like reality is a little bit messier than I wish it was.
well,
That's true.
join the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, the like 1,000 years club.
Longer than that.
I mean, thousands of years club. I don't know. But yeah, I think what like part of the issue is that like the categories, at least in reality, right? That the categories like they relate to each other in all different kinds of ways, and they show up with each other in different ways all the time. And you get that sense just from reading the categories, because he talks about different things in different categories, and he even says in different places how well, or at least he seems to talk about different things, the same things in different categories every so often, and he sort of admits that this is a thing that just happens. But I mean, so even just thinking of, right, another instance of, I mean, not the same instance or not the same kind of thing, but another instance of a where categories are mingling is in the, I think, example that you were giving, Joe, about how body without precision is in the genus of substance, but then you have body with precision, which would be in the genus of which would be in the category of quantity. But that very thing, body with precision, when it's united to a soul, like that unity itself is in the category of substance. But then even Aristotle refers to matter, insofar as it's a part of a substance, as itself a substance. This is something that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, I think, right? He refers to form as a kind of substance, and the matter as a kind of substance. And insofar as insofar as the body is the matter of the composite, I guess that's
So
kind of how I was
body in the category of quantity would be the material principle of body in the category of substance, right? Is that what you're saying? Similar to how prime matter is just the material principle of material substance in general. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess. It's another. Maybe they're both just. I don't know. But the thing with body is what makes sense to me is that body taken with precision is clearly of a different ratio and is defined differently than body taken without precision. And so I can understand why those are in two different categories all the way up to the highest genus there. I understand why they're going to be defined all the way up. But now I'm having a little trouble with like kinds of knowledge, right? They belong to a genus, which is relation. Yet they are habits. Now you always divide a genus by reaching outside the genus and using something else to divide it, right? So I'm okay with doing something like that, introducing a specific difference to. But what we're not actually introducing habit as a difference, because all of the branches of knowledge are actually habits. The difference is they're objects. So we got a thing in the category of relation, of which every member of the species is actually a quality. So you would think, like, if you identify that commonality among every member of a species, that at some point they're going to belong to a genus which has that commonality.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they don't if you go all the way up to the highest genre and you find that they're still in the category of relation and we never jumped over to quality. Like body doesn't do that, right? Body taken with precision, I move all the way up to quantity. Good, makes sense, right? Body taken without precision, I'm in the category of substance. I move all the way up to the highest genus of substance. I'm like, yep, it's good, makes sense. The definition is solid. We didn't jump categories at any point.
But you were starting in 2 different categories.
Yes.
So, all right. So your problem was that, I know Julian tried to make the distinction, or he tried to talk about the knowledge with and without precision. You're rejecting that? That wouldn't just place it in 2 separate categories?
I think this doesn't seem to be what Aristotle is saying. If I understand, it seems to just be saying that there's this like weird overlap. It's like you start off with the highest genus of relation and quality, and then as you descend down, they just kind of like meld together in the middle.
Yeah, that is difficult because it doesn't seem like the categories are reducible in any way.
Right.
And I know I have to deal with that a little bit with my economics type stuff and use value and exchange value. That seems to be a quantity quality problem, and that it seems like you can't reduce the one to the other. But again, like you talk about reality being messy, it just seems like you can. It seems like knowledge so generally defined is knowledge of, even if it's my having of an intellectual relation. That's still a relation, but my having that relation makes me a type of that thing, or it affects me qualitatively. The same way I think you can derive exchange value from the use. The reason things have value is because of it's what you can get out of them. It's what you can do with them.
I guess the reason why it's so bothersome to seemingly have the same thing in 2 different categories in the same way is that the reason, at least the big reason why the categories are so advantageous is because they help us they allow us to define things by which we can determine the natures of things. And if knowledge of grammar is in 2 different categories, that sort of gives the sense that it has like two different natures or something, and that's troublesome, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I think there's got to be a distinction in ratio way in which you would define knowledge as in habit, and another ratio you consider it under which it belongs in relation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like body. I think it's got to be just like body in that way. I don't know exactly what the ratio difference is.
Well, I think knowledge, properly speaking, has to be in the category of relation, right?
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
That's what you mean, absolutely speaking, is by knowledge, is you have knowledge of something. I think absolutely speaking, knowledge has to be primarily in the category of relation.
Right.
But whatever it is, it's something about that habit of my having such knowledge that, because it's that habit, it's my having that relation, is the qualitative change.
Is he maybe using the term, this would be almost irresponsible of him, so I hesitate to ask, but is he using the term species in a loose sense here at the bottom of our page? Does he mean when he says that like the species of knowledge are themselves habits, right? Whereas the genus is relation? Does he mean to say just loosely like the kinds of things you would understand to be knowledge are actually habits, and that knowledge itself is actually a relation. Like, is he actually putting the habits of knowledge into the genus of knowledge, which is in relation, when he says that they are a species of it? I feel like it's got to be. That's the prima facie reading, but it would make more sense if he's not.
Just the
I'm also starting to think that the way that knowledge is in the category of relation is sort of different from how other things are in the category of relation. Like when I think of the term like great and small, for example, right? That's another example that he uses in chapter 7. Great, like great seems to be the relationship itself between two things, which themselves are not in the category of relation, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like a mountain is bigger than a tree,
Mm-hmm.
but neither a tree nor a mountain are in the category of relation.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say greater or bigger, I'm speaking of the relationship itself, but knowledge isn't like that. It does need reference to something else in order to be understood, to be explained. And in that sense, it's in the category of relation.
Though what's
But
interesting
it's
is
sort of
that it
different.
actually doesn't need that at all when you move to habit, because the
Yeah.
very specific differentia of this genus here in the category of relation called knowledge, the very specific differentia is I lost my train of thought. Oh, hang on.
well, the specific differentia seems to be what it's related to, right?
Yeah. I think that's what I was going to say, but now I'm not sure that it's right. The specific differentia is what it's related to. Yeah, okay. Because they're all habits and they're distinct by their objects. So because that's the way they're distinguished, this is what I was going to say. Because that's the way they're distinguished, they are no longer they're not related to something else. Like they're sort of a relation in themselves because they include both of the correlatives. They include
Is that
like
what he
the
meant by
knowledge and the of, right?
Is that what he means by they're not being related to anything external? Whatever he says in that last, like knowledge of grammar isn't external to itself or whatever.
It certainly isn't understood with reference to anything else, right? It's got the reference built into it.
Yeah, but knowledge is.
But knowledge isn't, right? Yeah, knowledge needs the reference. And so the specific differentia are those references. And so like in the species, you don't have relation anymore.
Mm-mm.
But in a way you do.
Well, the relation is
Because
built in.
each of them are relational,
yeah. But it's not related to anything else. That's what he said. The knowledge of grammar isn't related to anything outside of itself.
And that's what's essential to be in the category of relation, isn't it? Right? When you understand it in reference to something else.
Yeah, and the knowledge of grammar isn't understood in relation to anything else.
Maybe that's the weird thing, is that by taking this specific differential from another category, like we always do, and combining it with the genus, the species themselves, they're not relational. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't think. Where's Jake?
Lifting couches and stuff. Come on. The three of us together have to be at least half as smart as Jake, all right?
Dude, no, we can't read the categories. We can't do it.
Also, if Jake came in here, not only would he like, even though he would solve it for us, he'd be a dick about it. So
Yes, sir.
I don't mind feeling dumb as long as I get the truth.
That's true. Yeah, I don't mind that, but
That's
I just
a good attitude to have.
I was sort of forced to adopt this attitude in the course of my life. You know?
it comes with being stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
you know, I just
exactly.
have to, I just have to, like, I don't care. I just, you know.
Yeah.
I think we made a little bit of progress, though. I have
Yeah.
got at least some interesting questions, if not satisfactory answers all the way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd like to know if, because it would, I think it would be helpful, but uh, Aristotle doesn't seem to do this, or at least, well, he doesn't seem to do this, but it would be helpful if he, very clearly divided relation, in the way that he like very clearly divides quantity. He very explicitly says there are two kinds of quantity: discrete,
Mhm.
continuous.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of discrete quantities. These are the kind of continuous quantities.
Even
He doesn't really.
quality does that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
early relation, he's like, I give up.
Well, but that's
But he
how do
doesn't do that
you?
with relation, right? So,
One of
but
the
it
other,
seems like you ought to be able to do that.
The weird thing
but
is
are
that
there
all the
different types
others,
of relation? I mean, there. I assume there
I
have
mean,
to be, but
I would.
in a way,
I mean,
aren't all
like
of the
it seems. I mean, it seems clear to me, at least, that knowledge is a different kind of relation than great or little is. You know,
um,
or that it's different, or that it's a different kind of relation than like double and half is.
yeah, I guess I'd have to see how that difference shakes out.
quantitative
What's
relation and
interesting
well, maybe not quantity.
by putting in the other categories. What's interesting is that too a lot of the relations are co-relatives, right? Like you always have like teachers of students and students
Mhm.
of teachers, the double of a half and the half of a double. Knowledge of grammar and the like grammar of knowledge, like those aren't co-relative.
That would certainly be a division of relation, right? Is just relatives, and then you have co-relatives.
Hmm.
That's one. I don't know if that's the first difference, but I think certainly that divides it somewhere. Yeah, it'd be great if Porphyry did a tree on this.
I
That's
wouldn't
He's
know. I've never read it.
I was googling. I was trying to Google that. I found something, but it doesn't look very trustworthy.
I was gonna say, if you found anything about the categories or Porphyry on the internet, I'm just gonna go with nah.
Most of
Yeah,
the illustrations
this
of
is
the
what I'm
Porphyry
looking
tree
at.
are good.
This guy right here.
Hold on. What the hell?
This might
Thing
actually
that
be
someone.
legit just because it's like straight up so ghetto.
What is
Like
Yeah,
ISO?
it's
this
from
is written
like.
by a smart guy who doesn't know how to do anything else but divide the category of relation.
I don't know what
Yeah,
ISO is.
made this all the way back in like 2003 on,
Hierarchical and associative.
This ISO is already a specific difference, so I don't know what it means,
yeah.
but these are
This might
good.
not even be. Yeah, I don't even know.
I like these differentia though.
Hierarchical, associative, hierarchical relation.
Let
Yeah.
me. I want to. Happens if I Google ISO relation. Oh, it suggests ISO relationship. What is that?
Ooh, how about that? It probably doesn't have to do with. It probably doesn't even have to do with Aristotle at all.
I'm sure it doesn't. Nobody reads Aristotle for his own sake. What is ISO? It's photography.
Ah,
It can't be right.
damn it!
It's probably different
Should've
things. I
known.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, it seems to do with like camera ranges or something.
Oh, great.
But here's ISO relations director of business development on LinkedIn. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
The International Organization for Standardization, the ISO, is a worldwide federation of national standards bodies.
Oh, that clears it up.
Yeah, I know what all those words mean.
It is a non-governmental organization that comprises standards bodies from more than 160 countries. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's a non-elected international lawmaking organization.
That sounds about right.
That
That clears that up.
Definitely what Aristotle had in mind. No doubt about it.
That's right.
Sure. Yeah.
All relations belong to that category.
Thanks, Google.
Aye.
Well,
what my
If
mind
we're-
hovers on is important with that is that the specific differentia make it so that the species are not actually understood relative to something else. So
And
there's
that
some
sounds
way in
right,
which,
and that seems to be what he was saying, that
yeah,
it's not understood with regard to anything external. But then but you still have to deal with the category shift, and I don't totally
maybe you
understand.
don't. Maybe you would still put it in the category of relation. Hang on, I had a thought almost ready on this. You still put it in the category of relation, maybe, because what's most essential about it is that there is a relation between a known and a knower, right? So you don't put us in a genus of things that are, I don't know, bipedal, right? That's not what's most essential about us. We put ourselves in the species of rational, right? So because you put something in the genus that it belongs to most essentially, even though of course it has other essential attributes, maybe where these habits actually belong most essentially is yet still relation. There's still a question of like, what's the distinction in ratio between the habit, thinking of it as habit, thinking of it as relation? But maybe you had that right before, Phil, with I'm thinking of the having of knowledge and just the knowledge sort of in the abstract.
Yeah, well, I mean just looking at it on the face of it, those are two different things.
So like, because in a way, the having of knowledge would be kind of like a part, right? It's something that's it would need to be added to a knowing subject, right? Or one of these I think needs to be added to a knowing subject. And the other one doesn't, right? So habit actually doesn't, right? Because habit would always be in a subject, right? It's always the habit of a power. And so then knowledge in the abstract then would be maybe knowledge taken with precision, such that, no, hang on, which one would be taken with precision?
With precision would be like knowledge of grammar.
Yeah, that would have to be the habit.
Okay. And it's presenting from what? It's what needs to be added to it.
Right. Other perfections that could be added to it, like knowledge of music or knowledge of.
Yeah. Like you can add.
Oh, no. I'm thinking of actually I'm actually thinking of whether. No, what am I thinking of? I don't know. It's going to take me a minute. So. It's really going to take me a minute. So if you want to talk about something else, we'll wait.
Well, the only thing we have else to talk about would be to move on to a new topic. I don't want to change topics.
Okay. Well, let me think about body out loud then. So body, right, taken with precision, does not implicitly include in any way the addition of form, right? Such that if form was to be added to it, form would have to come to it as something outside the essence.
Right.
So knowledge then I can't make the connection.
Well, isn't that something of where you have the addition of like the form of grammar or the form of music being added to knowledge?
No, so I think that knowledge in the category of relation is not an abstraction with precision from its species. I think it implicitly includes all possible options. I don't add together knowledge and a subject of knowledge. Those are not
Okay, I see
distinct
where you're
things,
going.
right? So I think that knowledge certainly does not prescind from any of its species. Yeah, maybe there's nothing here. I don't know. I'm kind of at a mental dead end. I don't know if I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Maybe there's nothing. It's probably a wind egg, as Socrates would say.
Good old Timaeus.
Theaetetus.
That's the one I was, whatever. I knew
Yeah.
it started with a T. We talked about it earlier.
We're such philosophy nerds, man.
I know, right? It started with a T. Well, when you talk about a habit, one of the first things you're talking about, right? The habit is something that I have, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if I have such an intellectual relation, right? So I'm still you're still including you're still including knowledge in the category of relation because it's my having of this relation, this intellectual relation. But when you're talking about it, I don't know, Joe, you're talking about being in a knowing subject. When you're talking about it being in me in the sense of my having it, that makes me grammatical or that makes me musical, that's part of that's my having, right? That's part of it's a habitus in me.
But even knowledge in the category of relation can't be defined ultimately apart from a subject because it's an accident, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the relation of knowledge has to be possessed by a subject that knows.
Mm-hmm. Except for when you're defining it in abstraction, right? When you're just saying what knowledge is, where it's relational.
No, because all the accidents, when you're defining them, it's precisely as you define them in the most abstract way you can. They're always defined with reference to substance. Relations of substances. And when I say that knowledge is of substances, I don't mean as an object, but I mean as the subject that possesses it, right? The way an accident is possessed by a subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there might still be something there to the having of it, because it's like the mode of possession is as habit. Like there's lots of different ways to possess accidents. There's at least 9, I guess. But when knowledge is possessed by a subject, it is possessed by way of habit.
But I don't think when you define knowledge, you don't define knowledge first as saying that it's a habit whereby I have this intellectual relation. You define knowledge first as being the relation.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about the genus of knowledge, you certainly do. If I was defining a certain subject of knowledge, I would define it first as a habit.
Mm-hmm. Then are we wrong about its primary category? We were saying knowledge is primarily in relation, but if it belongs always to a subject, then it needs to be in a habit first.
Well, maybe my mind is just thinking about it wrong. Maybe my inclination to say like, oh, the knowledge of metaphysics is a habit, and just immediately drop it in there. Maybe my inclination is wrong, or maybe
The knowledge
There's a
of metaphysics
distinction
is a
in
habit.
ratio in here, damn it.
The
And
knowledge of metaphysics is a habit, is your habit, but not knowledge.
yes, right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're asking me about the genus of knowledge, I'm going to define it right away as a relation. But if you're asking me about knowledge of something,
Mhm.
I'm going to say, well, that my knowledge of that something is habit, and I'm going to put it there as I want to put it there as like the most essential genus to which it could belong. But maybe I'm wrong to do that, or maybe there's a distinction in ratio here that I just don't have knowledge of. See what I did there?
Yeah, I got you.
Thanks.
I need a little soundboard. I could have that too. I could have a rim shot.
Oh God.
I think Phil, this sort of has to do with what I was getting at earlier, that when I take a relative term like great, or yeah, I say that the terms of the relation that's involved there doesn't involve the term itself, right? Right. So when I say great is a relation, what I mean is that, like, I only speak of it in terms of two other things. A mountain is great in relation to a tree.
Yeah.
But great itself is not one of the terms of the relation. But when I speak of knowledge, this is why I think that knowledge has to be a different kind of relation than great, because when I speak of knowledge, when I ask what one of the terms of the relation is, I say knowledge of music. And when I ask what are the terms of the relation there, I say, well, knowledge of music is one of them. But then what's the other term of the relation? I kind of want to just say knowledge. As in
It's
knowledge
mind,
itself.
right? It's mind.
That's where I'm thinking. That's
Okay.
yeah.
You made me think a thought though with your greatness thing. I think maybe an analogous problem. So I was thinking about the relations of greatness, right? And because greatness, I don't know if maybe this would be two different categories, but I could compare two things as being great, one greater than another in virtue, or being greater than another in magnitude, right? And the one is a relation concerning habits, and the other is a relation concerning quantities, right? Does that when I consider like not just great in the abstract, which is certainly a relation, but when I consider greatness of magnitude, does that in any way overlap with the category of quantity? Maybe not. Maybe it just takes
I don't think so. I mean, Aristotle explicitly rejects larger and smaller from quantity, right?
even of magnitude.
Yeah.
Oh, larger and smaller. Yeah, certainly. But
Greater and smaller, and
what I'm doing is I'm introducing a specific difference into relations of great and small, namely the difference of magnitude, so that I'm comparing it. I'm comparing the greatness and smallness in terms of magnitude, right?
Yeah.
So like,
well, that's actually, you could say 350 is larger than 250.
well, larger there would still be abstract. I guess maybe there's just not species of the larger or something. Maybe the larger is sort of primary. Yeah, maybe that's the problem I was having.
Yes, I mean, like, Michael Moore is fatter than I am, and so he's certainly larger than I am. But that's a relation, right? And then him being 6,000 pounds and me being 170.
Yeah, I understand that it's a relation between your quantities, but I was wondering if there were relational comparisons in terms of the large that are
No,
measures of quantity.
I don't.
Like,
No, I don't see it.
yeah, I'm thinking maybe that's not a thing. Like if I was to try to categorize a quantitative comparison or something like that. Like quantitative comparison, I think it's an idea that I have, and it's something I could define, and I would define it in the category of relation, and it's a type of relation that measures quantities. But I think all I'm doing is just introducing the specific difference from another category, dividing into species, and it's still completely cleanly in relation.
Because even equals is a relation.
It doesn't. I think the difference. This is the difference. The difference is that even though it introduces that specific difference from another category, it does not eliminate the need for the relative terms the way that knowledge did. That's why it's not working. All right, never mind. Wind egg.
Yeah, we're at some point there's a category shift that I don't know how to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense to me. Again, all the examples we've been through, like I can't explain the ratio of distinction.
Good news is no one's going to ask you this on comps.